Republican concedes to reality and inevitability. Another seems to have stuck his fingers into his ears so deeply to avoid them both that the ears have met, or the fingers have met, in the middle of his brain. Turns out his first frank admission about his extramarital sparking was short a few trysts and a few women and a bunch of uncomfortable details that Governor Mark Sanford has decided to fill in for us. No politician has told so many salacious half-truths about his own love life since Sanford's last news conference last week. In a new and remarkable interview, the governor, having originally admitted to only 4 meetings with his mistress over the past year, now putting that number at 7. 7 that he is admitting to. The wild bull of the Pampas now timelining his extracurricular calendar with his Argentine friend like this. 5 meetings with Maria Belén Chafur in the last year, including 2, quote, multi-night stays in New York. Sounds like something he won on a game show. Also 2 more meetings before then. Those overnight stays in New York would be the first time he has admitted to sparking with her on U.S. soil. Still not South Carolinian soil, however, where the governor could be subject to a hefty fine and no less than 6 months in jail because adultery is still on the books there. Governor Sanford today also admitting to more women, if not exactly more sex with those women, telling the Associated Press that he, quote, crossed lines, end quote, with a handful of women other than his mistress or his wife, but he claims he never sparked any of them. The governor saying that during the encounters with other women, he, quote, let his guard down with some physical contact, but, quote, never crossed the ultimate line.
Again, I didn't cross the sex line. I'm quite certain that there were a handful of instances wherein I crossed lines that I shouldn't have crossed as a married man, but never crossed the ultimate line.
If there isn't a band called Cross the Sex Line by next week, somebody's asleep at the switch. Finally, this piece of reconciliation advice for the governor, should he still want to get back together with the missus, as he claimed again today to his interviewer, best perhaps not to describe the affair at length as, quote, a love story. Best not to mention either publicly or privately that his Argentine mistress was his soulmate. Wives tend not to like that.
And so if you end up 50 years here on Earth and you know, all right, maybe I get another 30. And if you come into connection with a soul that touches yours in a way that no one's ever has, even if it's a place you can't go, this notion of knowing that you know, for me, became very, very important.
Here we go. Let's turn now to our own Eugene Robinson, associate editor and Pulitzer Prize-winning columnist for The Washington Post, who is both from South Carolina and has lived in Buenos Aires, and, of course, most importantly, has stayed overnight in New York himself. This just keeps getting closer and closer to you, Gene.
It does, but there was no sparking, Keith.
Amen. The movie Love Story, infamously, the advertising for this was love meant never having to say you're sorry. For the governor, it's been 6 days now where he's been doing little else but saying he's sorry. How much longer does this center hold?
Who is it holding now? I mean, every time he says he's sorry,
but he's still the governor.
He's still the governor. But I'll tell you, if I, went and told an interviewer that my mistress was my soulmate and I was trying to fall back in love with my wife, you'd be picking pieces of me up off of Fifth Avenue or whatever. It's this is it. Every time he apologizes, he creates the need to apologize yet again. So this could go on indefinitely, like a perpetual motion machine.
And I don't want to mock the emotion in many respects. The governor is somebody to be envied for what supposedly he feels. But this is the story as it relates to his job and what he was elected to do, and the money that is spent to protect him and fly him places. This story keeps evolving. It was the hiking trip on the Appalachian Trail. Now it's now it's lines that he crossed that didn't quite involve sex, but something near. Why should we even believe that?
Well, why should we? And by the way, these lines that he crossed with these other women, well, who were these other women, and how, exactly how were these lines crossed? I mean, again, he is perpetuating the story. It's not anybody else. He's doing it.
Are they all from Argentina? Is there one per South American country? Are there any in other continents?
Well, we don't know, but one thing, I mean, the admission about other women and unmentioned lines does, actually, maybe I'm cynical, but it does make me wonder about the kind of love story, soulmate aspect. Clearly, he was looking for a soulmate, not his wife, or at least open to that possibility a bit more than perhaps he should have been for quite some time.
Obviously, this is tremendous television, and in terms of political theater and revelation of political hypocrisy, as much as might be said about this throughout broadcast television and cable television news, this is a wonderfully informative thing. But on the other hand, shouldn't somebody who either loves the governor or hates him tell him to shut up before he does himself even more damage?
I would hope so. I mean, one imagines that staff members, for example, may just read these interviews and watch these interviews with kind of slack-jawed amazement, and I can't imagine that they're not telling him, Governor, you really need to go hiking, Governor, go to the Appalachian Trail immediately.
Take a hike, Gov. Yeah, if you've ever been completely stupefied that your managers, your bosses have been able to find the office in the morning, let alone tie their shoes or whatever, I guess you can sympathize with the staff here. Gene Robinson of the Washington Post, as ever, great thanks, Gene.
Buenas tardes.
And stay out of New York.